If we look at, Singles Day just happened, Alibaba, $31 billion or something like that in 24 hours, and I think it was something like 60% growth from last year. And if you look at Amazon's market share, I think it's over 50%. It's a single company that actually dominates 50% of e-commerce in the US. So both companies, though, are like more of the same, right? I mean, these are big incumbents that's been around for 10 plus years, more than 10 years, and just doing the same thing better and faster. So has e-commerce really changed? And what is the next disruptive technology that will come and sort of make them panic and worry about something that's going to completely take their approach to e-commerce away and have them potentially either acquire companies or think about really doing things differently?
We also know building a new product is not so easy, right? You might typically it starts off from building something that you yourself would want or you feel you can do better. But then you realize, okay, actually there's a million and one things behind.
If we talk about e-commerce, I think a lot of conversation has to be around reducing friction. And we know that the most successful e-commerce players are the ones who've been able to make it frictionless. A little bit of good friction is good, and it's in the form of authentication, fraud and authentication. We've seen repeatedly through research that the online shoppers actually do want to are a little bit concerned, depending on which market you're from, about fraud, definitely, especially if you're using a debit card. And actually, interestingly, specifically, they've said that 75% of Singapore consumers actually said that they would like to know when their online transaction goes through.
If you look at how all these companies are disrupted, they're not disrupted because totally new technology came out. It was just a different way of doing something. It's either on the distribution front, they were able to distribute much better or more efficiently, or on the merchandising front, they were able to get merchandise that other people could not get.
I know ShopBack recently launched ShopBack Go, right? So that's another piece of sort of technology or change of approach of looking at online to offline. What's your prognosis of that? Is that the big thing that will happen, that people will move instead of just purely on e-commerce? It will be a mixture, omni-channel plus online to offline that will dominate commerce in the future?
It's shopping still. But when we go to the offline space, it's really just different channels that they're reaching out. So I think a lot of these offline players, they have a few mediums that they try to do their marketing. When I make online transactions, I also make offline transactions. And both of them, I think, should not be seen separately, but more of like a transactional journey. And how can we help these merchants get more customers at reasonable costs?
Always been amazed by what you guys do and, of course, what India, China, all of you do. I mean, what is your source of inspiration every morning? I mean, you guys keep innovating so well and always ahead of the game. I mean, a lot of us in the other markets don't look at you as a bank. When we look at people like DBS, it's always a fantastic approach. But what keeps you? Is it employees? Is it the culture? I mean, and where do you get your source of inspiration from for innovation?
I think for DBS, it's not a secret, and I think our CEO has been fairly public about us worrying about being disrupted. Really look at the other banks as competitors anymore, which is probably another way of actually looking at the competitive landscape a little differently. That keeps you on your toes, and that forces you to sort of innovate towards the future. So, Piyush is famously calling these companies the tech fins. So fintechs are one breed and one class of companies, which, in fact, we think that 99% of fintechs will probably partner with the banks more than they will compete. But there'll be the 1% of the fintechs, which are tech fins, which account for probably 80% of volumes of any business that they do, right? And those companies are the ones that will be like the Alibaba, like the Amazons, like Facebook, like Google, like Gojek, et cetera, that will have this interesting dynamic with the bank. And many of those companies that I listed are e-commerce companies as well, because the world is just evolving such that platform companies are going much more beyond their original scope, right? Even if you're an e-commerce company, you could easily become a bank. And if you're a bank, the only way to sort of respond is to go into that space as well. Now, can we do everything? Obviously, we can't. So a lot of times, we actually look at this as an opportunity to innovate and to partner. And many of our announcements this time around at FinTech Festivals is also around partnerships with e-commerce companies so that we can actually deliver seamless experiences for our joint customers.
Sometimes timing is very important. And there's a window of opportunity whereby you can build something whereby maybe the incumbents are slow to move, or there are no startups that have come in yet. So there is the window of opportunity to to get that space. And after that window of opportunity has passed, it's actually very expensive or very difficult to actually disrupt that industry. So I think from a startup's point of view, it's more of there's a limited window of time. And if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. Right? So it's more of how can you get as much market share as possible before that happens.
Change is the only constant, and if you resist change, basically you'll be holding your breath and you'll die. So that's how we motivated ourselves to kind of go through the change, and a lot of us are very adaptable, and I think that's the way to go nowadays.
It's anger and frustration. I'm not kidding. The average age in the office is like 26 years old, and everybody is frustrated and angry all the time. At why is the product like this? Why can't it be better? Why can't it be like this? You know, why can't it be faster? How come I still need to wait 10 minutes for this? Why? So that's what really drives us to innovate.
How do I humanize tech? We're losing the human touch. And again, back to instant gratification. How do I teach my kids that, hey, you got to be patient?
At the start of every disruption, what happens is you need scale. So what you're seeing now is that people are standardizing everything and making it as scalable as possible. So at the start of every industry disruption, that happens, right? And what I always believe in the invisible hand of the economy. So what happens is as these companies become very, very big, then you have concierge services that come out. So people that really want more of a human touch, then startups will go for certain verticals that say, hey, these people don't want just a plain vanilla platform. They want something that's more humanized, right? But first, I think we're now at the early stage whereby people are trying to standardize everything and trying to get as much scale as possible. So when that happens, then it seems a bit like, I won't say inhumane, but like there isn't really a touch. It's more systems, right? And as this scale, then what happens is, and they become very big, then they become big enough for like small vertical or niche startups to come up that says, hey, I'm just going to target this group, and it's going to be very concierge-based. It's going to be really focused on the human touch, and then that makes business sense for them. So I think it's an evolution. So I know as of now it seems too far, but as it grows, this would surely happen.
This digital approach that we've taken sometimes takes away the service element and the human element. So how that will be infused, I think it is a program that we're trying to do from a change management perspective to make sure that the different business units actually incorporate that in their design thinking, not just from a digital user experience perspective, but actually infuse that in part of digital design and UX design as well.
Now we have blockchain coming in. How you see blockchain will play a role in this area, the fintech moving forward?
So maybe potential technologies like distributed ledgers, which blockchain is about, will make your business operations better.
I would put blockchain almost in the same category as drones. So in that test and learn category, everyone acknowledges the potential of blockchain. People are testing drones for delivery.
The super app is now the latest buzzword, right? Everyone wants to be a super app right now. And the reason for this rise of the super app is because you're trying to get to the everyday. The likes of Grab and Gojek and the likes of Uber are attacking the everyday, which is transport, for example, right? The likes of WeChat is attacking it from social. So what is the next thing? What is the thing that will disrupt these big e-commerce giants? Is it the super app or is it something else in your mind?
I think why they're going to the everyday space is they want to own the customer. Yes. So they are just finding sick ways to own the customer. It could be through content, hotel, or it could be through rides, it could be through food delivery. What they want to do is just own the customer. And now the platform that they want to own the customer with is with mobile. Because owning your desktop, maybe they have you during your work hours, which you are supposed to be working, but after that, they don't really have you, right? But for mobile, they hold you almost 100% of the time. So what they want to do is really own the customer. I think it's more of who owns the customer, regardless of what they're doing, right? So the next disruptor will be just getting you to do something else on mobile, and he gets a user base. And their hypothesis is that with this user base, even if he's doing something for a particular vertical, he can expand this across. And I think Alibaba or WeChat were good case studies.
I would actually bet that there will be an equalization. A general equalization between now, the scale looks like it's tilted towards the tech fins, using Jean's words, right? But there'll be more equalization. I think there'll be through partnerships and through kind of upscaling.
So maybe a little thought around how you guys think about artificial intelligence in your various capacities.
Companies are fighting to own the customer or to get the customer. Because once you get the customer, you get data. And to me, data I think is important. I think it's an enabler, less of a disruptor. So it enables big companies or companies with a lot of user base to become even stronger, right? So then they polarize themselves from the rest of the field. So I think it's a great enabler. At the start, when the pie is growing, everybody is happy to share. When you see that as big companies in China, as they start to grow and it becomes competitive for that data, then there will be certain cutoffs, right? Then there is a clear delineation who really owns the customer. Right? Yes, who owns the data? Because when they become big enough to become competitors, then that's something that they'll be very sensitive about.
For the big companies who own customers, AI actually will be an enabler more so than the disruptor. That's my view. For the startups, actually, I think AI will be used as a cost savings / engagement tool. So very different purposes, and I think if we kind of look at the use cases of AI, then it becomes a lot simpler, I think, to understand the pros and cons of it. For me, I think it's the whole category of buy now, pay later. Okay. That's an upcoming category. For me, it kind of targets that redefining credit.
So it's all about turning on other verticals that can come on board. Yeah. So I think those apps like Toutiao with super lot of engagement and user ownership, very, very powerful.